See the participant numbers going up. We'll wait a few moments as they go up. For those who are joining us, welcome, and we'll just get our numbers to where they need to be before we begin, which will be just in a short moment. See, our numbers are at 260 some odd. We have, I believe, close to 500 participants who have signed up for today's town hall, which is fantastic. We're just waiting for our participants to join in the queue of our web session here. And yes, there is a link available for closed captioning, and our technical team will be on that in a moment for you and provide that information. For those of you just joining, we are just waiting for our anticipated 500 registrants for our town hall session to fully load into our web tool. And once we have everyone here, we will begin in just a moment. Just waiting for our numbers to climb a little higher. I believe we have over 500 people registered for our event today, our town hall, and we're just waiting for everyone to arrive. We'll start that shortly because we know we'd like to have as much time as possible for our question and answer period. That is what you've all been asking for. So we will get to that as soon as we can. More participants are joining. I know today I've had some issues with my internet, and I don't normally have issues. And some others who I've been on Zoom meetings with today have also had a couple of issues. So hopefully, I'm going to knock on wood here on my desk. Hopefully our technical issues will stabilize for our town hall today. And I see some numbers, it's going a little bit more slowly now. I'll look to the technical team to let me know if I should wait a little longer or if I should begin and as the others join us. I can start, so I've got the green light to start. Thank you so much for joining us today, and as the others join us, my name is Laura Stambra and I'm Vice President of Student Services, and it's my pleasure to be the moderator today of our town hall, of our monthly town hall. We have 12 participants on our panel today, and I'd like to introduce them. We have our executive team with us. Claude Brulé, our President and CEO. We have Chris Jansen, our Senior Vice President Academic. We have Diane McCutcheon, our Vice President of Human Resources. We have Tracy McDougall, our Director of the Office of the President and Communications. Ron Digonis McCluster, our Vice President of Truth, Reconciliation, and Indigenization. Dwayne McNair, our Vice President of Finance and Administration. And Mark Sabenkoff, our Vice President of Advancement. Also, as part of our panel today, we have Colin Benang, our Director of Risk Management. We have Maureen Castella, our Manager of Talent and Compensation, and Erin Langevin, our Director of Labor Relations, as well as Grant Perry, our Chief Financial Officer. So you have a team here that's ready to answer your questions, and we will be getting to them shortly. You can see our agenda, and we certainly want to allow as much time as possible for the Q&A session. If you do have any technical issues or concerns today, please use the chat box, and our technical team will help you immediately. We are using a webinar tool today. This is not a Zoom meeting. It might look like a Zoom meeting, but it's actually a webinar tool. And that's why you will only see the faces of the panelists and not all the participants. And the reason we use this tool is just for the volume of participants that we have in these sessions, and it's the most effective tool to use. We do have the closed caption box now. You can see that is at the bottom of the bar, the menu bar here. And when we get to our Q&A session, please use the Q&A button, not the chat button, the Q&A button to submit your questions. And we will go through those questions. We will read them. We will read them in the sequence they come in and answer your questions. And always, if there's any questions we cannot get to, because time doesn't permit, we are committed to writing the answers and posting that on our website and issuing that communique, so you'll know where to find that. So with that, I would like to turn over the town hall opening to Ron Digonis McCluster.
Segu Agwegu Digonadasa Niingets. My traditional name is Digonadasa. Ron McCluster. Laura already introduced me, so I won't do that. Thank you all for attending today's town hall. I know that our numbers are steadily increasing here, and so that's a good thing to see. Today I'm going to do the opening in my language. I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining that. I did a nice deep dive on that the last time we were together. And so with that, Digana Hila Dungsla, De Yene Tuladu, Ungu Hagu Yokino Ha, Hunja, Owela Su, Oje Da Hasu, Owela Su Asina Diganda Nindea, Hinde Sawahi, Yunkwa Tugu, Yunkwa Na, Degalunda, Indelio Hugu, Ladisi Gayundes, Sangat Delio. Skanyat Delio, Singway Dizo, Adanito. So that's a really quick way of just acknowledging all the different layers of creation. A really quick way of acknowledging that they were all given sacred instructions and that they continue to do so, and it's we who benefit. So with that, we will consider our meeting open and wish us all a good town hall. Laura, over to you.
Thank you, Ron. And with that, I would also like to welcome President Brule to give some opening remarks and a brief presentation.
Thank you, Laura. And welcome everyone to our July Town Hall. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your continued support in adhering to our guidelines, our protocols, our measures to ensure that we keep the transmission of COVID-19 at bay and ensure that in Ottawa and our region, we continue to see a decline in the numbers. Since our last town hall, there's been a number of COVID-related development. Some of them you would have heard through my announcements, my messages. We've launched our summer pilot this past week to address the need of some of our learners that could not finish their applied hands-on activities this past winter. And this planning was done in consultation with the province and with local public health authorities. And speaking of public health authorities, last Monday, our Ottawa Public Health Authority mandated the wearing of masks. And shortly thereafter, we followed up with our own announcement mandating the wearing of non-medical masks indoors in all of our 3 campuses. We have also finalized our academic plans for this fall, and those have been announced at a high level to suggest that it will continue to be a hybrid model for the fall, where the majority of things that can be done remotely, both delivery of programming as well as delivery of services, will be done remotely. And we will invite limited number of students back on campus to see to their hands-on learning, their activities that they need. So in opening our labs, our shops, that will be done in person. Final announcement that was made yesterday, of course, was a stage 3 announcement from the Premier starting this Friday. And of course, I'm sure you'll have lots of questions about this during our town hall. We started to talk about it this morning at our executive huddle, and there are probably more information that we need. Seek a little bit more clarity around exactly what that means for colleges, universities, educational centers. But certainly it's a good signal that we continue to be on a path to recovery. Finally, I want to thank you for your continued suggestions regarding our town hall. We're listening and we're acting on them. So you've seen, for instance, Laura introduce all of our panelists. We're rotating the moderators. So Laura this week is our moderator. And we're reserving majority of the time for Q&A, for questions and answers. I do have a small presentation that I want to make, though. We had our extraordinary, I guess, a special board meeting yesterday. Normally we don't have a board meeting in July, but we had one simply to have the board approve our revised business plan and our revised budget through our first quarter process. And I do want to spend a few minutes to talk to you about what does our revised business plan look for this year. So with that, if we can move the slides forward, thank you. What I will say is that we had last December produced a corporate risk profile for the college that was approved by the board. And given the situation with COVID-19, it was felt that we really needed to revisit our universe of risks and restate our corporate risk profile. And in doing so, we've identified a number of risks that are predominantly COVID-related in nature. And that has a trickle effect. When we restate our risk profile, we want to take mitigation strategies to reduce those risks. Some of those mitigations will find their way through new initiatives in our business plan. As you know, the COVID-19 situation has reduced our financial resources available for strategic investment priorities, as well as our overall capacity to deliver on some of these initiatives. And so in reflection of those new realities, we have amended our business plan, as you see on this slide. The number of goals has remained the same, but the number of initiatives has decreased from 39 to 28. So if we go to the next slide. So some of these new initiatives for this year are listed here. There's a couple of slides related to those new initiatives. So first one, clearly COVID related, that we want to make sure that 100% of our winter and our spring 2020 students that have outstanding in-person requirements given the opportunity to complete those activities by the end of December. So the pilot we're doing right now helps with this, but there's still a large number of students that we need to see to, and this initiative is meant to address this. We also want to assess the quality of our online and remote learning. When we very quickly pivoted and went to this new environment, it was done with the best of intention to continue to see to the academic need of our students and their success. But we knew that over time, we would continuously improve on what that delivery looks like from home. And we want to make sure that we assess that quality, that we can continue to improve upon it. That's part of our continuous improvement philosophy. And I think it's timely this year that we take stock of what we're delivering in this mode and find ways to continue to improve them to benefit the learner experience. We also want to optimize our student delivery services in that remote environment. So not just what we're delivering academically, but also our services as well. So we'll do both. As you know, our situation, has been explained during our many meetings the past month, COVID has affected us financially and in many ways. And we want to find alternate ways in order to continue to sustain the college, but not just sustain the college financially, sustain it in a holistic way. Partnerships is a great way to do this, to collaborate, to find win-win situations that allows parties to come together and find creative solutions that create a brighter future that sustains both organizations. By putting together a plan to explore and find ways to partner with others is a way forward to help resolve some of our challenges. And so we're going to have an initiative in our plan related to public college and private partnership that is in full concert with the new binding directive that was issued in December by the Ministry of Colleges and Universities. Next slide. Related to our people goal, we're going to do, again, take a look at how we do our learning across the whole college, not just what happens academically, but what we do as an institution. We are an institution of higher learning, but we're also a learning institution. And so cross-college learning and development steering committee would be a way to govern that aspect of our institution, and establishing this committee by the end of January. And it will have the mandate to oversee all employee learning from a structural point of view, not in who does what, but really from that governance, to ensure that there's coordination across our various units, who perhaps deliver some components of education, training, professional development to our employees, and do so within the context of an umbrella governance. Sustainability, the team will lead an exercise by the end of March to, again, as I mentioned earlier, strategically position the college on a path to financial sustainability. Coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic will be a multi-year effort. Yes, we are taking a significant financial hit this year. That's been explained to the board at our Q1 presentation yesterday. It will take several years to return to pre-COVID-19 contributions that we made to our strategic investment priorities. And so we want to make sure that we put together a plan that allows us to return to that good financial stewardship and sustainability for the college for the years to come. Next slide. So as I mentioned, okay, this is great. We've got these initiatives on one hand. On the other hand, what are the things that are coming off the plate, because we won't have capacity to do all this. And so here you see some of the major initiatives that were slated to happen in 2021 that we're postponing by a year to 21-22. And this I want to explain to you. So we have positioned the college extremely well regarding personalization of the student experience and education through our learner-driven plan. And we've made great stride this past year, not only to develop the strategy, but also develop the plan and have it approved by our board. And in the remainder of that academic year and the fiscal year, we've made stride with 3 excellent working groups who developed great plans and started to make inroads in implementing some of these initiatives. At the moment, we feel that through COVID-19, we are doing a lot of personalization, both in the delivery of our academic programming and our services. And we, in conjunction with all the other initiatives that we're doing, we feel that we won't have the capacity to do true justice to those initiatives that are in the learner-driven plan. We're not postponing everything from the learner-driven plan. We're going to continue, for instance, with micro-credentials, but we are postponing some elements of the learner-driven plan for next year. We're going to postpone the development of our master plan as well. This was meant to be completed this year. We're going to postpone this by a year and present this for approval to the board in 21-22. And finally, we're going to defer the implementation of the majority of our year 4 of our people plan to 21-22. But we're going to continue with some aspects of the people plan, namely those initiatives related to equity, diversity, and inclusion. So again, we're normally presenting a 2-year business plan, but given the fluidity of the situation related to COVID-19, we want to make sure that we give ourselves some runway to have more clarity in the fall to be able to provide the board with what we intend to do during the 21-22 year. And so we said that we would present the 2nd year of the business plan in the fall 2020, when we have a bit more of that clarity of the future. And the restated 21-22 business plan will be presented to the board in February, along with the budget for that year. Well, that's my presentation for what took place at the board yesterday related to our restated business plan. Now I'll turn it back to Laura for the start of the Q&A.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder, I'll repeat again in case we have new participants for the Q&A section of the town hall. Please use the Q&A box, not the chat box. I will read the questions as they've come in the sequence of the order, and we'll have our panelists answer those. Also, if you're watching this through YouTube live stream and you would like to pose a question, please put that in the chat feature of the YouTube and the events team will get that question to me. So I'll just be, my first time doing this, so I'll be maneuvering my way through the technology. I'll let you know if I feel I've made an error. My biggest fear is to click a question as answered before I even get to it. So let's hope I don't do that. With that, I'm up at what I believe is our first question. And it says, support staff layoffs have started under the furlough agreement. With this in mind, multiple corporations worldwide have had executives take pay cuts of 20 to 10% to maintain staff on payroll. What is happening with administrative bonuses? We still don't have a definite response, and it is unconscionable. The college is going to get ahead on the backs of one employee group. So I'm looking to our panelists to see who would like to take that question. Diane, thank you.
Thanks, Laura, and thank you for that question. The decision about the 2 items for administrative staff pay, one is cost of living allowance, and the second is administrative bonuses. Those decisions have been deferred to the fall. We have mentioned at a previous town hall that all collective agreement bargained increases will continue to go ahead. However, no decisions have been made on the administrative 2 items, cost of living allowance and bonuses. Thank you.
Thank you. I am sorry, just scrolling to the next question. Will the stage 3 announcement impact the college's plans for this fall?
I can take that.
Oh, thank you.
Unless Claude wants to go too.
I was going to say I started down that road a little bit with in my introductory remarks that the announcement just came out yesterday. We started to look at the details, and again, some clarity is required in order to really fully appreciate the impact this may have on our college, on our activities, the plans that we've put in place going forward, both for the remainder of our summer pilot as well as our fall plans. So a bit early to tell what the impact will be, but already so far it still speaks to the need to physically distance ourselves from one another by 2 meters, wearing masks, again, which we've mandated, but in this stage they're saying, you know, wear wear masks if physical distancing is a challenge. And it still talks about promoting the work from home feature. So, you know, at this point, not a lot of change for us, specifically in phase 3. But again, I want to give Colin a chance to also add to this question.
Thanks, Claude. And yeah, I think you're exactly right. We do need to do some analysis with the announcement that was made yesterday. There are still a great many questions. Also, we are waiting on anticipated bylaw tomorrow from the City of Ottawa that relates to mask wearing, which could bring some changes in our policies once we see the wording for that. So I think all that to say, you know, in time we'll see what the implications might be for the fall plans. But I think it's important to note as well that our fall planning was underlaid by the physical distancing requirements, and those requirements will still be certainly in play for the fall term. So, you know, that in addition to masks, we'll have to see what sort of changes it might bring, but it's very likely that those requirements alone relate to our capacity, which is built into much of the planning that was already done for the fall term.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is happening with hiring? Admin positions are being posted and more admin are to be hired while support staff are being laid off. How is that fiscally responsible? Diane.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you for that question. With regards to that question, I went on to the HR website and looked at our postings just now, actually, and I saw that there were 14 current postings. Of those four postings, we have 3 that are administrative, and out of those 3, there's one that's a 2-year term, so not a full-time position. We have 10 support staff positions that are posted, and they are full-time positions, and we have 1 academic position that is posted. I do want to let you all know that the executive team looks at any new postings that are coming forward, with the exceptions to the posting. It's not a freeze because it's a review of each of our vacancies. One of the things that we had committed to in the Workforce Pandemic Mitigation Plan was to really examine all of our vacancies. And so when there are needs of growth areas or replacement because the work is there, that level and that business case does come up to the executive team. And once we have reviewed each one to ensure that, yes, in fact, the work is there, then it gets posted. So I do want to reassure you that we are looking at all employee groups, and if there is a need for ongoing work, then in fact the positions are posted. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, can you please explain the cost of annual parking pass and how it works for those who are not on campus until January? And I think, Dwayne, this is a question for you.
Yes, thanks, Laura. So there was a communication issued by the parking office about a week ago that gave an option for this year to purchase, well, it's an annual permit, but it's been prorated for the January 2021 to August 2021 time period. So that option is available now, and if you haven't seen the communication, I'll just refer you to the Parking Services website. We will also be offering regular annual permits for the full 12 months if you prefer that. And there will be further communications coming out from the parking team on how to best coordinate your purchase of parking passes. So if in the fall term, you're only coming to campus maybe a couple times a week, we'll lay out some options for you that would best fit that scenario.
Thank you, Dwayne. The next question is, administrative staff are not confined by a collective agreement. With respect to administrative pay and bonuses, what will the college be doing to help the college's finances? Sorry, I can't see who on the.
I'll start it, Laura.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was waving, but I didn't realize you weren't seeing
Some
my
of
hand.
the question box is over the
Oh, I
screen,
see.
so I'm
No
sorry.
worries. As I mentioned before in previous town halls, yes, it's true that administrative staff are not confined by a collective agreement, but I want to make sure that people are paid for the work that they do, and that pay will not change for any employees at the college that are working to the 100% of their function. With respect to what we call EPI, or Exceptional Performance Incentive, not a bonus, EPI, we have not issued any EPIs to any administrative staff to date. We have talked about it. We will review this in the fall, but at this point, nothing has been paid out. I don't know, Diane, if you want to add to this.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, will the college be providing staff with a signed CRA form T2200 Declaration of Conditions of Employment, which states that staff have been asked to work from home? This allows Canadians to deduct part of the costs that relate to using their homes as a workspace. Who would like to answer that question? Just jump in, whoever, please, because I can't see.
Sure. Sorry, yeah, this is Grant. I can answer that one. We have been reviewing that and discussing it at ASET. So as you may know, the T2200 requires employees to have, as a condition of their contract or their work agreement, to be required to work at home and maintain an office in their home. So we are hoping that CRA are looking, actually we know they are looking at an exemption for this year that will allow us not to have to amend contracts to reflect that requirement, so that employees will be able to claim those office expenses against their 2020 income. That being said, you will have to keep your receipts. So when we get to that point where we have that guidance from CRA to allow us to do that, you'll be able to claim it. So we will be sending out a communication to that effect and just providing a little bit more guidance on that. But by all means, make sure you're keeping your receipts. So when the time comes, we'll be able to provide that guidance, and you'll be able to use those pending CRA's agreement with that.
Thank you, Grant. And I believe the next question is for you because this was part of your presentation to the board. Read the question. The Board of Governors meeting yesterday budget spoke to about a $19 million shortfall. How accurate is this number? $25 million shortfall was announced when the Equal Work, Equal Pay came in, and we ended up with a surplus that year.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. How accurate is it? With any of these numbers, there's a fair amount of risk at this point. We're still in the pandemic, so it's difficult at this time to know what the final impacts will be and what our enrollment will be when return to campus will be. So everything that goes into our $19 million deficit projection is based on a projected return to a normal state of operations. It's based on our capital projects being deferred or delayed and our expenditure reductions that we've captured in our Q1 projection. I can say that the 19, we're not going to see a big surplus budget, I wouldn't think, this year. There's significant risk even in the $19 million number at this time. We're working hard to minimize the overall deficit for the college. And I think we've presented that fairly, but we'll be updating that as we go through the year. So our second quarter, as you know, we come back each quarter with an updated financial projection. So as we get more clarity on enrollment numbers and the gradual reopening of the economy and returning to a normal state, we'll be able to refine that number. But at this point, we're confident that the number represents what we know at this time.
Thank you, Grant. And the next two questions are about the learner-driven plan. So I'll turn to Chris Jansen for these. I'll read the first question. Wouldn't alternative forms of delivery that were included in the learner-driven plan be a good way to recoup some of the losses from the closure? How does the college justify pausing the learner-driven plan?
Well, thank you, Laura. Excellent questions, and building on what Claude had shared earlier, just to clarify, we are only pausing the formal work on the learner-driven plan. All the good work that we've done leading up to this point in time has really laid an excellent foundation, developed a mindset, developed a culture, further developed a culture of really making sure that our decision making is putting the learner's experience at the forefront of all of our decision making. And so the alternative forms of delivery, and by that I'm going to interpret that to mean micro-credentials, is one of those things that we have not put a complete stop to. As a matter of fact, there are a couple of micro-credentials being developed with just that in mind of trying to recoup some losses and take advantage of opportunities in the business world where folks need to retrain, reskill, upskill due to the impacts of the COVID pandemic. So we are trying to take advantage of those opportunities and build on what we've learned from our work in the learner-driven plan to this point. We are simply stopping the additional expenses around the working groups and the formal development of further implementation aspects of the learner-driven plan at this point.
Thank you, Chris. And so I just didn't read the second question. I think your answer did address that, but just to say that the second question was what's happening with the learner-driven plan, specifically with micro-credentials in the current job market, with the ideal launch now for new job seekers who haven't recent education and missing the skill that they need to be employable. Is there anything further you want to add to that question?
Well, also just simply that in some ways micro-credentials are new, and in some ways they're not new. And that gets into a curriculum development fine detail that I'll be happy to have with anybody should they wish to have a conversation with me later. But what we're trying to do is work within the existing framework credential that put out by the ministry, so that we're not trying to create something new, but work within that to still be able to take advantage of small training needs, short-term training needs within industry. So I'll stop with that.
Okay, thank you. I believe the next question is either for Diane or Aaron. And what is the vacation policy for this summer?
I'll take that, Laura. Thank you. So essentially, we've been having a heavy focus, of course, on the vacation planning for the excess vacation and the 1920 accumulation. And now we're kicking into the 2021 accumulation. So what I would encourage you to do, of course, is to work with your manager and to start developing those plans as to how we will be using our current vacation allotment. The importance of this is to always keep ahead of this. We don't want to get back into that situation where we have a large liability that, again, we have to then turn our mind and our focus to really in-depth planning of this vacation. Whereas if it becomes just part of our normal vacation accrual planning with working with your manager, then it's not as big of an issue to deal with. So for vacation plans this summer, please work with your managers to start working on that 2021 accrual. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe the next question is for Chris Jansen and or Wayne McNair. Oh, sorry, Claude, yes?
Yeah, I could start it off and
oh, excellent.
Have Dwayne and Chris supplement.
Perfect. Well, just question, what is the public college private partnership? Are we contracting out education?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. And this is not about contracting out education. This is about finding partners who share in our college values, allows us to extend the reach of Algonquin College stellar education and quality into new markets, and allows us to get access to perhaps what another partner is very strong at that is not our expertise, to complement what we can do together and create those win-win situations. And so the idea here is really to seek out perhaps partners who share or have an interest in this. And we are developing criteria and a transparent process that will allow us to determine if this is a good fit for us. And this is a Canada-wide search. This is not limited to our geographic area. As you know, many colleges have started such partnerships with typically Northern College with a GTA-related entity. And they've done so for the purpose primarily of seeking additional revenue. And those partners were principally addressing an international market. We want to go beyond that and create a partnership that would be distinct, that allows us to have a clear win-win, as I said, for both parties, that allows us to have extensions to the comprehensiveness of what we offer and allows us to reach new markets. And with that, I will turn it to Chris or Dwayne for additional comments.
I have nothing further to add. That captured everything from my perspective.
And mine as well, Claude. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I get to the next question, sorry, if you saw me looking down, that's staying connected with the events team just to ensure we also answer questions that come in through the YouTube participants. And we have one here that I'd like to read out. And it says, COVID-19 has demonstrated the prolonged benefit of permanent flexible work arrangements. For example, AC Online has maintained full enrollment and has operated successfully from home. Will the college innovate and allow employees to work flexibly and continue to do so? Who would like to take that question? Diane?
Start? Yes, that's something that we're certainly working on to see what kind of structure and framework we can put in place for not on-site working. So when I refer to remote working, it could be, I'm not referring to working from home. It could be working outside of our campuses. And that's the kind of framework that we are looking to create. We have been having a lot of discussions on it. Right now, of course, our plan is that we are working remotely in through the fall, and that is part of the recovery plan. And so what we are, in human resources, what we are wanting to do is have this suggested framework in place upon approval with the executive team, of course, so that upon return to the workplace, that there will be some options available for what our new normal could look like. But really, we're kind of targeting that to be at the end of the fall term to see what this more formal structure could look like.
Thank you. The next question is, please give more details regarding the exercise that will be delivered in order to increase sustainability. Dwayne, would you like to answer that?
Sure. So yes, there is a goal in the revised business plan that went to the board this week for college management to undertake an exercise to put the college back on the path for sustainability. And the details on this have not been fully developed. We've had discussions at the executive team on what this exercise will look like. We've decided roughly on a time frame that we need to undertake this exercise over the next 9 months thereabouts, and that there will be appropriate consultation undertaken with this exercise. And really, it's all about ensuring we improve those 3 primary metrics that we've been referring to during our response to the pandemic plan, ensuring we've got adequate, appropriate learner satisfaction with the college's programs and services, appropriate employee engagement, and financial management in place. So those will be the 3 pillars under which we develop this exercise for sustainability. And I expect there will be more information to share near the end of the summer as we approach the fall term.
Thank you. And I do believe the next question was looking for the exact same type of information. So just to recap, underway plans starting to get underway, more information to be communicated by the end of the summer. And we'll move to the next question. Can we have an update on enrollment numbers for the fall term? Chris or Grant, would you like to answer that?
Either way, we share our numbers back and forth. So Grant, I'll start off, and you can chime in and add some fine detail if you wish. But when we recast the budget at Q1, it really was based on what we believed our enrollments were going to be able to be attained for the fall. And so the numbers that we're using in the Q1 budget are really a combination of looking at the enrollment pipeline, if you will, of students who have applied, who have confirmed, accepted the offer, and paid deposits, in comparison to the academic continuity plans that have been developed that defined what we were going to be able to offer this fall, both in terms of what we were able to find a way to deliver remotely in a quality manner, as well as those things that were going to be required to be face-to-face, and really also some of the painful decisions around what we simply that needed to be face-to-face, but we could not find a safe means by which we were going to be able to deliver that curriculum. So based on both of those two factors, the enrollment pipeline and our capacity to be able to deliver our programming for the fall, we arrived at a total enrollment that was approximately 85% of our original plan for the 2021 year. The domestic numbers for new enrollments for the fall are right at or just slightly above what we've been predicting at this point. However, the new level 1 international students are a strong wild card at this point. That's the data that's still changing quite rapidly, and frankly is a little bit frightening. Those numbers are not good. They're not attractive at this point, and are an ongoing concern that are followed quite closely. Grant, unfortunately, what I don't remember is where we're at with the level 1. I don't remember the numbers for the level 1 intake at this point. Can you help me out?
Yeah, sure. I can help you with that, Chris. I have the percentages, so I don't actually have the numbers in front of me, but I'm just looking at our presentation from last night. So on the level 1, on the domestic side, we are projecting right now at about 90% of what was targeted on the level 1, and returning, though, as you mentioned, slightly above what we had projected. And also, as you noted, on the international side, level 1, just almost right around the 50% of level 1 on international students of what we projected in the approved annual budget. And then on the returning, about 22% under a budget for the returning international students. So on the domestic side, fairly strong, relatively speaking. But as you mentioned, the international side is still in a state of flux and not very strong at this point.
I wonder, Laura, if you want to also mention how we're doing provincially, because we did get some news on that. That's worth sharing.
Yeah, we're doing very well. We watch our provincial OCAS numbers in terms of our confirmations and also the amount of prospective students we have, and of large colleges. We are at the most positive end of the spectrum. Sorry, I don't have all the figures in front of me, but the 24 colleges we are producing and securing the most favorable numbers, which really is exceptional and really a testament to the entire college community. So thanks for bringing that up, Claude, and certainly if anyone's interested in those numbers, send me an email. I'm happy to share that good news story with you. In terms of, and hopefully we've answered that question. If not, please just add to the questions that are coming in if you're looking for, that didn't answer the detail you're looking for. The next question is a human resources question. How has the college used the furlough agreement with the support staff union?
Thanks, Laura. I'm going to turn this question over to Erin.
Thanks, Diane. The furlough agreement is for our full-time support staff employees only. Our College Employment Stability Committee, which is composed of both union and college team members, use this document and agreement to support the employment stability exercises that they're completing through the Workforce Pandemic Mitigation Plan. They review different options and use seniority and temporary redeployment options and other benefit supports that are outlined in the furlough agreement. And they continue to do this. It's a confidential process, and identify the individuals through this process that are impacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. And I believe the next question is also for you, which is how many staff members is the college currently planning on laying off? Is it expected to be a large percentage or just a small number?
Again, our staffing needs continue to change and continue to be evaluated. And our College Employment Stability Committee continues to look for alternatives for employment stability through the Workforce Pandemic Mitigation Plan. As business decisions are made by our people leaders, they put forth a business case and that's reviewed to understand the needs. And that information is provided to our College Employment Stability Committee for the support staff. And that information is reviewed by them in confidence. However, you know, with changes that happen along the way. So for example, our yearly year center going back into play, staffing decisions are changed. A redeployment opportunity may be available in one area of the college, and people are continuing to look for alternative work in those jobs, because again, we are honoring the terms and conditions of our collective agreement and also trying to have creative solutions for our employees as it relates to employment stability at the college. So again, there isn't a set number, and we continue to review this frequently to make sure that we have the right staffing levels at the college. And this is also tied to our recruitment. So the College Employment Stability Committee also reviews options for redeployment for any of our employees that may be impacted from a full-time support staff position or from a part-time support staff position. Thanks.
Thank you, Erin. The next question is the recent health and safety training offered through Employee Learning site refers frequently to the need for employees to engage in training activities as part of the eventual return to workplace. Is that kind of training already available for faculty who will be working in person with learners in the coming weeks and months? Who is offering this training? And Colin, I know this is a question for you.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, I'll check the specific references to training activities in the training, the online training. Oftentimes we include reference to training activities as part of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. All employees are obligated to participate in training activities that are presented by the employer. So these might be generic references that are in that training material. At present, the training that exists is the online training that's hosted through the Employee Learning Exchange or the Employee Learning site. Also, there could be references in the training to additional training for specific requirements. So, for example, we have a respiratory protection program and we have a personal protective equipment program. If you were required to wear a specialized respirator, like an N95 respirator, that sort of training is a little bit more involved, and it's organized through Occupational Health and Safety. At present, we don't have any requirements for N95 respirators as part of the programs that have been assessed at this point. So with that, I think we'll do a quick review of the training that's online and just tighten up that language to make sure that there's no misconceptions about training, other training activities. I would encourage anyone to visit both the FAQ site and the site that's been prepared for employees and students who are returning to campus. There's a great deal of really good information on that site about all of the physical distancing measures, the signage, hand washing, hand hygiene, cough and sneeze etiquette, all of the things we've been hearing a lot about are on that site as well.
Thank you, Colin.
Okay.
The next question is, are the positions that are on their annual layoff, for example, food and service, 9-month positions, being invited back in the fall?
I can start this, and then Erin, please add in if I have missed anything. Anyone that is on a seasonal layoff will continue on their layoff until the end date of their normal, regularly scheduled annual seasonal layoff. Upon the time of their expected return date, work would be assessed to see if there is work available for them to return to work. And then a decision would be made at that time. Erin, is there anything to add?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question actually I think is for me. I'm the executive sponsor of the Student Information System upgrade. And the question is, who is accountable for ensuring that the new SIS can accommodate part-time learners or learners in monthly intake programs? How will our new SIS handle learners who follow a program of study that is not full-time? Now, I don't have the granular answer for you, that the question, who's accountable, it is I, but certainly we have a team that are working through all the integration processes. And I can tell you, we have talked often of part-time and continuous intake learners, especially as we are also looking at a more personalized through learner-driven plan and also personalized education, that we know the system has to have those requirements, and that is will be part of the new system. If whoever has asked this question, if you feel you would like more information, or if you have a feeling that that is not being addressed, please don't hesitate. You can reach out to myself. You can reach out to Krista Pearson, who's a registrar, or Lois Pollock, our Chief Digital Officer, and they are the two main leads of that project. But I do feel we have it well in hand, and it's something that we know we need to accommodate. So hopefully that answers that question. And sorry, I'm just going to move down to the next. Staff who are working from home with young children have been in unconsiderable strain with work, schooling, and childcare. Are there options for childcare and flexible work schedules?
I'll take that, Laura. So certainly any individual requests will be reviewed through our accommodation process that we have here at the college. The other thing that I would like to recommend is our Abilities and Wellness team within Human Resources offers virtual office hours. And it's a good opportunity for anyone to take advantage of asking those types of questions directly to the experts, who can point you to a lot of different either processes to go through or resources that you may want to take advantage of. So again, I think that's the extent of the answer that I have to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. And the next question is quite similar, but I just want to make sure I read it just in case there's a nuance that I'm missing. But if schools, high schools, and public do not go back in September, what options will employees have if they don't have childcare?
Yeah, certainly I would recommend discussing, if you have questions like that, discussing it either with your manager, but also take advantage of the Abilities and Wellness virtual office hours so you can talk about these types of things and what resources are available to you.
Thank you. The next question is, I know it was mentioned at the last town hall about HR working on a structure for employees to have opportunities to work from home 1 to 2 days a week when we are fully back on campus. If we are not going back to on campus until January, when can we expect to see options that will be available to us as employees? We would have to, of course, discuss with our managers, and we all know that it would take some time. Having this option available to us prior to the return to campus would make the most sense so that the planning process for the department can take place too. For those of us in positions where we are able to get all of our work done and are working at full capacity, we have all proved that work is getting completed.
I couldn't agree more with the statements that were made within that question and comment. And as I previously mentioned, we're targeting the end of the fall term to have a structure in place that is vetted and approved by the executive team.
Thank you. The next question is, we have all been forced to take vacation, yet then many need to cancel because of ongoing deadlines. This is both for administration and support staff. Is there any leniency to postpone vacation? Otherwise, execs need to accept deadlines will be missed.
Claude, would you like to start?
Yeah, I mean, we've made it clear from the beginning that we want to make sure that our operations continue. And so this isn't a directive to come, September. We want everybody to consume all of their vacation, irrespective of our operational needs. We need to absolutely take that into consideration. At the same time, we can find all kinds of reasons for everybody to say, oh, I can't take vacation, I need to do X, Y, Z. And I think there needs to be a conversation with your supervisor to make sure that there's clarity around the essentiality of that work at the present, that it cannot be perhaps done over a longer period of time that allows you to take some of that vacation. And I get it that we're going to have some times when we need to put a report together that has to go to the ministry or other imperatives that we're going to have to see to. But by and large, I think, yes, we have good flexibility, but I absolutely want people to be able to take their vacation. And if you've made a plan, something comes up and you need to say, I can't take this day because this is due and I really need to get this done. Work with your manager to reschedule it at a later date. I know that's happening with my team right here. And we've made those allowances where I said, I need to be on here on Wednesday, but I'll take Friday instead. So we want to be flexible, absolutely. But we also want to make sure people take their vacation and have plans in place that will take care of the vacation. We had a report this morning, by the way, from Maureen on where we're at in that part of our mitigation plan. And I want to congratulate all of you for the work that you've done to get us where we are. If we look at where we started back a few months ago, the bar chart has gone considerably down, which means that people are making plans, people are taking their vacation, and you're all doing your part to help with the situation. So I want to thank you all for playing your role. Thank you.
Well, and Claude, might I add just one other thing, because I've heard you say this before, but it's also important that when people are on vacation, they're on vacation and they don't feel like they have to be doing work, because then it's not really vacation. So we need to find ways of allowing people the time away, the time to relax, the time to renew, without coming back and feeling like they've never been away.
Agreed. Absolutely, Chris.
Thank you both for those answers. The next question is for you, Chris. If the formal part of the learner-driven plan is not happening, how is there clarity and consistency and making sure that what is being done ties into the main college directives?
Thank you. Actually, I rather like this question because it's a fun answer. And the answer is it doesn't necessarily need to be consistent. There doesn't necessarily need to be that clarity. The learner-driven plan is meant to be addressing the entire college as a whole. Each one of us has a role to play in making the work that we do learner-driven. And so the formal work, we keep referring to that formal work, was aimed at certain initiatives to try to achieve certain outcomes as part of the learner-driven plan. But the learner-driven plan as a whole is supposed to transform the entire college. And so as we move forward through this next year, those formal initiatives may have been put on pause, but the groundwork, the foundation, the progress that we've made so far needs to continue with the work that each and every one of us do. And so there doesn't need to be some great learner-driven plan czar that says yes or no to this or to that. It's the entire philosophy of being learner-driven that's going to be important. So if people are thinking about, is this part of the learner-driven plan? The answer is yes, and we've been successful.
Thank you, Chris. Just before we go to the next question, just want to do a little time check. We have about 20 minutes left in our Q&A session before our wrap up. We have about 15 questions in the queue, but please keep the questions coming, because whatever we don't get to, we'll write our answers and we'll post those. So just wanted to do a little time check for everyone. This is certainly a question on everyone's mind. It's about the flexibility from working from home. We've talked about it a little bit. Certainly, I'll reread the question. Will the college be revisiting flexibility on work from home for support staff who are able to work remotely once we return back to campus?
So again, just to augment my answer from earlier, yes, we are looking at a policy, and it will be all about providing a framework for if the work is required and the work is conducive for working from home or working from not on site. We'll be providing that framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Claude, the next question I think I'll direct to you. Has the college received any extra funding from Ontario or federal governments?
Yes, initially when we came into the pandemic back in March, it wasn't very long after that we received $400,000 from the Ontario government. And this was really to assist with technology, help our learners, our employees work and study remotely. You'll recall we had many people that did not have access to either a laptop, access to Wi-Fi, and we really needed to assist people so that they could work effectively remotely. And really that's, we spent much more than that. We're keeping track of our expenses. We report on it regularly through our college system, who gathers and aggregates these numbers and continues to advocate on our behalf to government. In fact, we are having conversation with our ministry in this week on this topic. And I know that our ministry and our minister is advocating on our behalf with Treasury Board, as are all other government departments advocating for their constituents as well. So I know we could certainly use more funding to help support our efforts in combating the impact of COVID-19 on college operations, and we'll continue to advocate. So it's important for us to continue to track those numbers and understand what we're spending that is COVID related. And again, we'll make sure that we put any money that we receive for those purposes to good use for fighting the pandemic and its impact on college operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Claude. Next question is for Ron. In terms of Indigenous student supports, a lot of funds and efforts are being put towards the Burnt Water Initiative. How will this initiative support our Indigenous learners in all the programs across the college and help them achieve success in their courses or program, in particular with students struggling with their course content?
All right, Segu folks, greetings. Thank you. Oh, I can't thank an individual for asking the question because it says anonymous. Okay, in terms of the question, that's really interesting. So there's a few things I would like to unpack. First, a lot of funds and efforts have been put towards burnt water. I would disagree with that. There hasn't really been anything large put towards burnt water, although I have raised millions for it. But I will say that we're really excited about what Burnt Water's been able to do already in its very short life. I'll remind folks that at the college, it's contributed to 2 different gardens on campus and to 5 new infrastructure spaces. Kadabin, Ishkadowan, Nawapin are named just a few of those. Over the course of this pandemic, Burnt Water has partnered and produced a Lighting the Fire series, which everybody on here is welcome to attend. That works with the Indigenous Peoples Education Circle in Ontario. And it's a pilot program working with 4 other institutions to reach Indigenous learners, but also a welcome to explore Indigenous knowledge with anybody who wants to attend. So far, we've reached close to 400 people with that. There's 2 more to go. This next year, all things considered, we're looking to launch an Indigenous Leadership Academy, and we're looking at building an enhanced elders program. So a lot more activity that goes right directly towards students. But I would take a moment to say 2 other things. The college itself has committed to Indigenous education as a priority. It's not just Ron McClester, it's not just Andre, and it's certainly not just Burnt Water. That means every one of us who shares this land, who's come with their ancestors across the water, or the original people that came here, have a responsibility to contribute to this. So I would turn the question back to everybody listening. This year, it's a challenge. How are you as an individual going to contribute to the success of Indigenous learners, perpetuating Indigenous knowledge, and celebrating the truth, the history, and diversity of Indigenous cultures? Because I know Laura and I are working on some pretty cool stuff that we're going to announce in about 2 weeks. I know Chris Jansen and I are working on some stuff that we're going to announce in a couple of weeks. I know I'm working with the President's office to do some pretty neat stuff. And I'm working with people all throughout this country to make sure that Algonquin continues to strive for a leadership position in this file, but there's a ton of work to do, folks, and I need each and every one of your helps. I would, again, just a note that it's anonymous. I would invite whoever wrote this, if you want to talk with me, I'm happy to have a Zoom meeting with you. I'm happy to have a one-on-one if possible over line, and anybody else that wants to talk about these things. If you have questions about how to help and get involved, we would absolutely love to see you there and help.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for the question and thanks for the answer. Yeah, it does take a whole community for sure. The next question is, I know it's for Chris because he corrects me when I don't use the language properly. So I'll read the question. Is AC Online is the main deliverer of online courses which are different than remote alternative delivery courses. However, the language the college is using is online courses for both modalities, which is causing a lot of confusion for students. Is there a plan to distinguish the language for remote virtual courses to separate it from AC Online delivery, especially that this is no longer a short-term mitigation strategy?
No, thank you, Laura. And she's right, by the way. I do correct her. Every time I hear her say online delivery, it's no, we're doing remote delivery. There is a significant difference between the two. And like Ron, I'm going to offer a challenge up, although his is much more serious. Mine's more tongue in cheek. We do need to be careful with the language that we use so that we do not confuse students. We do not confuse ourselves, that our faculty understand, our administrators understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish at this point in time. The vast majority of courses that used to be delivered face-to-face are now being delivered remotely. It is a remote delivery. A fully online course is developed from scratch with the intent that it will be online. There are differences in pedagogy. There's differences in approach. There's differences in assessment, how we approach work integrated learning, all of these aspects. While there is some overlap with remote delivery, just like with remote delivery, there's some overlap with face-to-face. As a whole, they are different entities. And until we decide that we are going to redesign our curriculum from scratch and really develop an online curriculum for a course or for a program, we will continue with remote delivery. Now, early on in the pandemic, there were lots of questions as to whether or not it was the college was then going to turn around and say, well, you've shown we can do it, so now everybody's going to have to be online from henceforth. And we are not planning to do that. That is not our intention. However, if in the learning process of our adaptation to the pandemic, the faculty and the students decide, hey, this worked better than we thought. This is actually a better way of doing things. Of course, we will go down that path and redesign that curriculum from scratch and come back with a fully online version of that course or that program. And so, yes, this is stretching on longer than any of us would have cared for it to have stretched on, which really would have been about an hour. We are eventually going to need to make some choices. I mean, I'm not wishing this to happen, but if we realize 5 years from now we're still going to be in the same position, we might need to make some different decisions. But as we are beginning to have Ontario reopen, as we're moving to stage 3 as early as Friday, there is some hope and some expectation that we are beginning to come out of the pandemic. So the answer to the length of time is we are still expecting that before years go by, we will be back to a more comfortable face-to-face delivery. So I hope that answers the question. And please, everybody, be careful when we're saying remote delivery. It's different than online.
Thank you. I think I've almost got it down. I'm much better than I used to be. It's from your tutelage, Chris, so thank you. The next question is for Diane or Aaron. When will layoffs be announced?
Aaron, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Diane. So the college put the support staff union on notice on May 21st that we were contemplating layoffs in those employee types, and we continue to receive information and evaluate that, and that information goes to the College Employment Stability Committee. Thank you.
The next question is, I think, Chris, this is back to you. If the international student numbers are down, will there still be more decisions made for the fall program offerings, and when?
The challenge with enrollments, particularly with the international enrollments, as you've noted in your question, are that we don't have firm answers really often until right as the course is about to begin, right as the term is about to begin. However, as we get closer and closer and closer, the numbers get better and better and better. And so at this point in time, I am not aware of any programs that are in danger of dropping below enrollment threshold that would cause us to rethink decisions that we had made back in mid-June around enrollment related suspensions of intakes. That may change if the international numbers change dramatically downward from where we are currently or expecting them to be. We'd have to reassess. And I realize that that's a bit of an uncomfortable question, or excuse me, an uncomfortable answer, because it's not a definitive, well, as of this date, there won't be any more. But I recognize that it's incredibly disruptive to both the faculty teaching in these programs and the students that are expecting to be in these programs to have a decision made right before the course is about to start. And so we do try to make these decisions as far out as we possibly can. So it would need to be a dramatically downward turn in a particular program at this point for us to decide that we were not going to run that intake. So I don't anticipate any further of those decisions being made. But again, the international enrollments are a wild card at this point.
Thank you, Chris. And we know we watch those numbers absolutely every day, so we are on it. The next question is the College Employment Stability Committee meeting, and for how long has the planning been going on for positions? Erin, would you like to take that one?
Thank you, Laura. So outside of COVID-19, the College Employment Stability Committee for both the academic and support staff unions meet periodically throughout the year because the mandate of that committee is a joint resolution to look at options for employment stability as it comes. So, you know, it's not only about layoffs, sometimes it's about program changes, other business changes within the organization. So there is a set meeting standard throughout the year, and we continue to meet with both parties on employment stability committee matters. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is, some of us have contracts ending August 31st and have not heard anything with regards to renewal. When will we find out about our IO?
I can start that answer, and then if any of my colleagues want to jump in to add specifics, please feel free. Certainly the process for this is as the IO positions start coming to their end date. So new initiative and opportunity positions is what an IO position stands for. They can be up to a 2-year term, and it is usually for new initiatives or opportunities that the college wants to investigate and see if it will be ongoing. If there is a business case then that is to support this ongoing work, it then goes up through the dean or the director up through to the appropriate vice president. The business case would be reviewed, and then certainly during this time period, it would then come to the executive team for our review as well, as this would be an increase to the complement. These are support staff positions that we are referring to, the IO positions, and they are considered full-time equivalent, but it would be an increase to the complement if these were converted into full-time. That's the process answer.
Thank you.
No? Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Diane. Diane, did you have something more to add?
I was just looking to see if anyone had any specifics to answer to that, but if not, that's fine.
I don't see any. Just want to note we have, according to my clock, about 3 minutes left before we wrap up this session. So let's.
You muted yourself, Laura.
Thank you. I almost made it through without doing that. Darn. Okay. The next question is, why don't we start targeting more international student markets to increase Algonquin College revenue?
I can start that one off, and if Chris or Claude want to join in after. Yes, so currently, predominantly a large number of our international students are from India and China. And I can say that Ernest Mulvey, the Director of International, and his team are continually working on developing new markets, and they are in many other markets, but looking to target greater numbers from other markets so we don't have such significant reliance on just those two primary markets. And they are actively updating their international strategic plan with that particular focus.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I think it's very important. We also want to make sure we do well by our domestic students. One thing the COVID-19 situation has taught us is that a very high dependency on the specific market can be at one's detriment if situations become unfavorable. So it's important to understand ratios, mix, diversification, so that we become more impervious, if you wish, to downturns in economies or specific regions of the world as we become very much a global institution. So it's important work that certainly our international office is well equipped to continue to do on our behalf. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Let's do one more question. I know there's others there and some important questions. We will get those answers to you as soon as we can. What is the lowest number of registrants in an individual program that the college will then still offer in the fall?
I've got that one, Laura, and thank you. It's a really good question, and it's not a single answer. There isn't a number of registrants. It really depends on a number of different factors. One of which is not all programs are created equal in the costs necessary to run a program. That needs to be factored into it, but it's not purely a financial decision either. We look at the need for graduates from that program in the communities that we serve, in the employment sectors that we serve. We look closely at the impact on flow through, on what happens in subsequent levels of the program. And so all of this gets factored in. So I don't have a specific number. I can tell you, and again, I'm being somewhat facetious, zero. We're not going to run it with 0 students. Anything more than that, you know, if it's 1, 2, 3, it's not likely. But beyond that, it really is a decision that requires a great deal of thought and a great deal in examining a number of variables before making such a decision.
Thank you very much, Chris. And that does bring us at our close time for the questions. I think we got through a fair amount. We didn't get through them all, but we commit to you to answer those questions and post them. So thank you everyone for your questions. We really appreciate it. And I think, you know, just dialogue, as we know, is very important at this time. As such, I would like to turn it over to the president to do some closing remarks.
Thank you, Laura. And thank you to all of panelists for your candid answers to the questions that were put by our participants. And I want to thank all of our participants for taking the time this afternoon to participate in our town hall. I know it's the middle of July, nice weather, but you keep coming back in record numbers because you have concerns, you want information about what's happening at the college, and we're absolutely happy to host these town halls to help provide that dialogue for you to ask your very thoughtful question, as you've done again today, share your concerns that are evident by the nature of your questions, and to give us the opportunity to convey to you what we know and be able to provide you, hopefully, answers that are satisfactory to you. And if not, again, continue to pose questions and you know, let us know if, and I know we haven't got a chance to get completely through all our questions, and there was one question about them and says, no, that's not what I meant, and then you clarified your question. So it's important for us to be able to answer all those questions, and as Laura mentioned, we'll be answering them all, and we'll be posting them, and we'll let you know on my AC and Good Morning Algonquin when the information is posted. And again, continue to bring forward your questions. It's so important for me. I know it's important for our leaders, our executive team, to have that good communication, make sure that there is clarity in all that we do. And we saw this evident when we launched our summer pilot, the importance of good communication to make sure that everybody knows what they need to do, when they need to do it, so that we can continue to keep our community healthy and safe through these entire processes. So on that note, we're going to plan to have an August town hall. We haven't fixed a date yet, but as soon as we have a date, we'll announce that so that we can continue to have those conversations. And as we continue to hear more about stage 3, and as we continue to hear more from other announcements, whether provincially or federally, that we communicate that to you, and that we continue to refine our plans for the fall for the benefit of our learners and our employees. Thank you very much for this afternoon.
Thank you, Claude. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ron to do closing.
All right. Well, Segu again, folks. In the community that I come from, when we do an opening, we always do a closing. So I just want to acknowledge each and every one of you for the time that you took to join us today. What I'm holding in front of me is a 2-row wampum. And in this story, it talks about a ship and a canoe and how these two entities were going to relate with each other down the river of life together. And it holds special importance for the work that we do here at the college because of our commitments to indigenization. In the past, you've seen us change our town halls, the way we talk, the way the room was set up. In June, National Indigenous Month, I took a little bit longer time to do the proper Thanksgiving address. And so I offer that thinking and that reflection to everybody here. You know, there's things that we do in a community that we don't always currently do in this environment, and having a time to slow down, come together, make commitments to have a good mind for the benefit of the community is something that sets us apart and is special to the Indigenous governance model. What's also special to that model is non-anonymous participants. Maybe we could talk about that because it's easy to hide behind anonymity sometimes. And I share that because we're trying to create a good-minded community where we have open dialogue and discussion with each other. And I would encourage folks to own that. With that though, folks, you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, healthy, and happy. Yawango, yoyanladi, onagiwai.
Miigwech. Bye, everyone. Till next time.
Bye, everyone.